Hi, I'm Roxanne Richardson, and this is Technique Tuesday. If you have ever knit a project in stockinette stitch and on the edges you use Knit One Purl One ribbing, you will have noticed that there is quite a difference in appearance between the stockinette knit stitches and the ribbed knit stitches. These stockinettes are very small and even, and these are much larger, and sometimes they look a little wonky too. They just don't look as neat. So in this video, I'm going to explain why ribbed stitches tend to be larger than stockinette stitches. And I'm going to go into structurally why that happens, what's going on in the fabric to make that happen, and then I'll explain a few different things that you can do to improve the appearance of your ribbing. When we look at stockinette fabric, we can see that the V's of the stitch, the legs of the stitch, they're all sitting side by side. Now, these legs aren't the only parts of the stitch. There are two other parts. One part is the head of the stitch, and we can see that right here. So this is the strand that connects this leg across the back to this leg right here. So we have the head of that stitch, and then this stitch is connected to the two stitches on either side at the base of the stitch. So we've got this running thread between the two stitches. If we look on the back side of the swatch, we can see that there are these lines of offset bumps. The ones that are on top like this, that look slightly like a frown, those are the heads of stitches. So you can see, if I pull this down, you can see the legs of the stitch, and now you can see that the head is coming across. And if you look at the base of the stitch, you see the connector ones right here look more like smiles. So this upper and this lower are not the same stitch. This lower belongs to this stitch up here, and this upper belongs to the stitch down here. So that's how they're interconnected from row to row as well. But you can clearly see that these stitches are all side by side, even on the purl side of the fabric. Now let's look at this ribbing. So we've got 1x1 ribbing, or Knit One Purl One ribbing, and the stitches are enormous. And you can see in between stitches, you can see a horizontal line, and those are the heads of stitches. It's just they're the same column of stitches that you see here, these upper bumps that look like frowns. But you can't see, if I pull down like this, you can't see the legs of that stitch. And that's because the legs of that stitch are directly underneath this knit stitch. So they're not, the stitches aren't side by side like they are in stockinette. Instead, the legs are on top of each other. So you get this more three-dimensionality of the fabric, so that when you're looking at this face of the fabric, these knit stitches are coming forward and the purl stitches are receding, but they're also kind of overlapping each other. So it's this overlap that causes the fabric to be narrower. But what's causing those stitches to be larger? Well, again, with the stockinette, we have that horizontal strand that is connecting these stitches that are side by side. But with the ribbing, when we have the stitches on top of each other, what's happening is that the running thread comes out of the back of a knit stitch. It's going through to the back, but it's coming out of the front of a purl stitch. So when those legs are overlapping each other, there's a direct line from the back of one stitch to the front of the purl stitch. And that causes the running thread to no longer be horizontal, but instead it's vertical this way, and it's shorter because they're just so close to each other. They're right on top of each other. And so that yarn that would have spanned between two knit stitches is much shorter, and then there's extra yarn. It has to go somewhere, and it goes into the stitches. So that's why they're enlarged. It's that the running thread has changed position from this to this and has gotten shorter, causing the stitches to overlap each other like that. And that causes the fabric at rest to be narrower, but it also causes the stitches to be much larger. So what can you do about the size of the stitches? Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing that you can do is that you can change the needle size that you're using for your ribbing. This was the original swatch that was knit on the same needle size as the stockinette. So this is a worsted weight yarn, and it was knit on a US 6, which is 4mm needle. This was knit on a US 5, which is 3.75mm. And this was knit on a US 4, which is 3.5mm. And we get a little bit of narrowing with each one. And we also get a difference in the size of the stitch because we're using smaller needles, so we're using less yarn, the stitches are smaller. And that means when this is at rest, it's going to be a little bit narrower. That also means that when it's stretched as much as it can be stretched, it won't stretch as much as this would stretch. Depending on the needle sizes that you're starting with, if you're in this mid-range of worsted weight, DK, Aran weight yarn, going down a couple of needle sizes will reduce the amount of ability for it to be maximum stretched by about 10%. So if your project can handle that, then you can just use a smaller needle. If your project can't handle that, if you need that maximum stretch, then what you can do is compensate by increasing the number of stitches for your ribbing. So if you start with ribbing, you would cast on maybe 10% more stitches, and then as you are transitioning to the stockinette, you would decrease out those stitches. If you started in stockinette, then when you transition to the ribbing, then you can increase your stitches by about 10%. One easy way to do that is that instead of doing a knit and then a purl, you would do a knit front back, and that will create your knit stitch, but it will do an increase with the purl stitch. That's one approach, is that you can just use a smaller needle. Let's look at this one. That we went down 2 needle sizes. It does look better. It's closer in size. It's probably still larger than these stitches, but it will be closer in size. Another option is to choose a different type of ribbing. So the knit one, purl one creates the maximum stitch size that you're going to see in a ribbed fabric. This is knit 2, purl 2. The stitches are automatically smaller, and the reason that they're automatically smaller is that half the stitches are connected to another stitch of its same type. So you have that longer running thread between these 2 knit stitches, and you only have the short running thread between the knit and the purl on that side and the knit and the purl on this side. So you only get half as much extra slack that you would get with a knit 1, purl 1. So that will automatically be neater, and it will have exactly the same amount of maximum stretch as the knit 1, purl 1. And when it's at rest, it's actually going to be narrower than knit 1, purl 1, and that's because of the more extreme 3-dimensionalness that this fabric has. If you look at it from the side, you can just see that there's more undulation when this is at rest. But again, they're both going to stretch to the same maximum amount because there's the same amount of total yarn in the stitches in both cases. And then in this example here, we've got knit 3, purl 3. So you get even more dimensionality when it is at rest, and the stitches are even closer in size to stockinette stitches because you have even less of those transitions from a purl to a knit or a knit to a purl. Another choice that you can make, which you can see on my sweater right here, is to use a twisted rib. So it's only twisted on the right side of the work. The knit stitches are knit through the back rather than knit so that they stay open. This does reduce the amount of stretch that the fabric has, but it does create a much neater Knit One Purl One ribbing that's a little more, the stitches themselves have more dimensionality. The twisted stitches, the twisting of the stitch itself causes it to raise above the surface of the fabric a little bit. So that's another choice besides choosing a different ribbing altogether. If you do want Knit One Purl One, but you want the stitches smaller, you can choose Knit One through the back loop Purl One. If you're interested in learning more about the stretchability of different stitch patterns, I have a video on that topic right over here. If you have any comments or questions about this video or suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, you can leave those down in the comments below. Or join the discussion in my Ravelry group, Rox Rocks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.